Okay, I am the OBG, and this little section is called Science Doesn't Show Us the World. And I'll say this plainly, I don't think trying to understand the world purely through science gives us the full picture. It gives us something precise, measurable, and often useful, but not complete. And the problem starts when we treat it as complete. When I look at how we got here, I keep coming back to Galileo Galilei. Now, he didn't just improve observation, he helped redraw the boundaries. And he'd done that in pushing for measurement, experiment, and mathematical description. And he played a part in separating what we now call science from philosophy. But before that, people were called natural philosophers, and they didn't draw such a hard line between the two. Questions about motion, matter, purpose, meaning, they sat together. After Galileo, they started to split, and science took the how, and philosophy was left holding the why. Now, on the surface, that looks like progress, and in many ways, you could argue that it is, but science builds bridges, cures diseases, and maps the stars, and I'm not denying that. But the issue isn't what science can do, it's what it can't do, and the fact that we often ignore that limit. Science works by reducing things. It breaks reality down into parts, isolates variables, and it strips away context so it can measure cleanly. And that's its strength, but it's also its weakness. Because the world that I actually experience isn't stripped down, it's messy, layered, full of meaning that doesn't fit neatly into numbers. And if I try to understand a human being scientifically, I can talk about neurons firing, hormones shifting, and patterns of behaviour, but that doesn't tell me what it feels like to be that person. It doesn't tell me what their life means to them. It doesn't tell me why suffering matters or why love carries weight. Those aren't small gaps, they're the core of the matter. And this is where I think the mistakes creep in. We start believing that if something can't be measured, it either doesn't exist or doesn't matter. And that's a massive leap. That's not a conclusion. And this is the problem with science and scientism. Science never actually proved that meaning, value, or purpose are illusions. It just doesn't have the tools to deal with them. And there's a difference. Philosophy used to sit alongside this. It asked uncomfortable questions. It dealt with ethics, purpose, existence, things that you can't put into a lab. But once that split happened, philosophy got pushed to the side, almost treated like an optional extra. And I really think that we're feeling the effects of that now. Because if I only use science to understand the world, I end up with a description, not an understanding of the world. And this is a problem of working with the hard facts alone. I can't explain how something works without knowing what it means. And those two things, they're not the same no matter how much we pretend they are. There's also a deeper issue as well. Science depends on certain assumptions, like the idea that the universe is ordered, that our minds can grasp it, and that logic holds. However, science cannot prove these assumptions. Okay, I disappeared, I think. And it can't prove these assumptions without going around in circles. And these are philosophical foundations. So even what we consider to be purely objective is built on ideas that can't be justified on their own. And that's why I don't reject science, but I don't put it on a pedestal either. It's a tool, and it's a powerful one, but it's not the only way of seeing the world, and it's definitely not the final word, as many people who follow scientism would have us believe. And to be honest, I think we've confused clarity with truth. Science gives clarity, it sharpens things and it makes them precise, but truth is wider than that, much wider than that. Truth includes things that are felt, interpreted and lived, things that don't reduce down without losing something essential. So when I hear people talk as if science is going to eventually explain everything, I don't buy it. Not because science is weak, but because reality isn't that narrow. And for me, understanding the world means bringing things back together, letting science do what it does best, but not letting it push everything else out of the way. Because when I attempt to squeeze the entirety of existence through a narrow lens, I lose the essence of what it means to truly understand. And I'm not grasping the complexity. I'm merely trimming the edges, forcing it into a box that fits my limited perspective. This myopic view of the world through science, which insists on quantifying every aspect of life, strips away the richness of human experience. It's a dangerous simplification, a reduction of the profound into the trivial. And we risk losing the very fabric of what makes us humans, our emotions, our connections, our struggles, by insisting that only what can be measured holds value. This isn't progress, it's a retreat into ignorance. It's a refusal to acknowledge the vastness of the reality that kind of eludes the cold calculations of science. And for that, I say we have to come back to ourselves. I am the OBJ.